Part 3. Chapter 14, The Collapse. I didn't go back to my apartment that night. I couldn't. After walking out of that kitchen, after hearing those words from the people who raised me, I didn't have the strength to go home and be alone with the echo of it all. I wandered for hours instead. Through neighborhoods I didn't know, past glowing storefronts and laughing strangers, dragging my feet like they weighed 100 pounds each. The air was cold. Or maybe I was cold. I honestly couldn't feel anything anymore. It was like something inside me had shut down. A switch flipped. The engine stalled. All systems offline. I don't even remember getting to the park. Just suddenly being there, slumped on a bench near an empty playground, the kind of spot parents took toddlers on sunny mornings. Now, it was just shadows and silence. And me. I sat there for a long time. No phone. No headphones. No distractions. Just me, the dark, and the deafening realization that I had officially reached the edge of myself. Because what do you do when you find out your whole life has been a lie? Not just a bad decision. Not just one painful moment. But a pattern, a full architectural design of betrayal, with you carefully locked outside while someone else lives in the house that was built for you. I had spent so many years being good. Being obedient. Grateful. Low maintenance. The daughter who didn't ask for anything. Who didn't complain. Who never made a scene. I swallowed my needs so many times I forgot what they sounded like. I worked through migraines, attended class through exhaustion, and let my dreams shrink into fragments, because I believed the lie that there simply wasn't enough. Not enough money. Not enough time. Not enough love. And now I knew. There was enough. Just not for me. I was never the priority. I was the backup plan. The afterthought. The dependable one they could ignore because they knew I'd survive it. But survival is not the same as being loved. And in that moment, sitting on that park bench in clothes that smelled like grease and stress, something broke. Not a dramatic scream or a loud sob, just a silent, internal unraveling. I cried without sound, without movement. Tears ran down my face like my body didn't even ask permission. They just spilled out, hot and furious, as if they had been waiting for this day. My throat hurt from holding it all in. My chest felt bruised, like I'd been hit by something heavy. I had nothing left. Not anger. Not hope. Just a dull, numb ache that reached to the core. Because I finally saw it all clearly. The loyalty I gave them. The endless sacrifices. The second jobs. The skipped meals. The dreams deferred. None of it had been enough for them to choose me. They used me. They took my silence, my patience, my loyalty, and twisted it into permission. They robbed me not just of money, but of dignity. Of the belief that I mattered. I thought about my first day of college, how I wore a thrift store blouse and carried a bag with a broken zipper, while kids around me moved in with brand new laptops and parents who brought groceries and hugs. I thought about walking to class in the rain because my umbrella broke and I couldn't afford a new one. I thought about eating plain rice for dinner and calling it comfort food. And while I was surviving all that, they were booking horse-drawn carriages. I let out a sound, half laugh, half sob. It startled a squirrel nearby, and it darted away. Even that had more of a family instinct than mine did. Eventually, when my body stopped shaking, I stood up. Still trembling. Still hollow. But standing. I walked home in the dark. My legs moved automatically. I don't even remember unlocking the door. I didn't turn on the lights. Just slid down the inside of my apartment wall and sat on the floor. I stayed there for hours, knees to chest, arms wrapped around myself because no one else ever had. And I made a decision. Not out of anger. Not out of bitterness. But from the pure, raw understanding that I couldn't keep living like this. Waiting for a family that would never come. Sacrificing for people who would never give back. Hoping to be chosen by people who had already made their choice. I had collapsed. I was at the bottom. There was nowhere lower to go. Which meant there was only one thing left to do, rise. Chapter 15, Cut the cord. I woke up the next morning on the floor. No blanket. No pillow. Just the cold, hard tile of my kitchen against my cheek and a stiff ache in my lower back from the hours I'd spent curled up like a child. But I was awake. And strangely, for the first time in a long time, my mind wasn't spinning. My thoughts weren't running wild. There was no panic in my chest. No tears left to cry. There was only clarity. Cold. Clean. Unforgiving. And with that clarity came a simple decision: I was done. I got up, brushed the dust off my clothes, and walked straight to my bedroom. I opened the drawer beside my bed and pulled out my phone. The battery was dead. I plugged it in and sat there on the edge of the mattress, silent, still, watching the black screen slowly flicker to life. As soon as it powered on, the notifications came flooding in. Missed calls. Voicemails. Messages. Most were from Alyssa. A photo of her dress. A link to the playlist for her wedding reception. A selfie of her at the venue tasting cakes with the caption, "Can't wait for you to see the lemon lavender one." Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just confronted our parents about a betrayal so deep it made my bones ache. Like she hadn't stolen what was meant for me and turned it into Instagram content. Then there were the messages from my mom. "Don't let this ruin things. You've always been dramatic. You should be happy for your sister. It's not a competition. We still love you, even if you don't understand the decisions we had to make." I didn't respond. Not to any of them. Instead, I scrolled to my contacts list. My thumb hovered for a second over my mother's name. Then I pressed and held. Block. It didn't even ask for a reason. Just, "Are you sure?" I was. I hit confirm. Then I did the same to my dad. Then Alyssa. Then the family group chat that had spent months planning the wedding without ever once thinking to include me. One by one, I severed every tie. And with each block, something loosened inside me, something heavy and choking and old. I wasn't just cutting them off. I was releasing myself. Because I realized that staying connected, answering their calls, replying to their guilt-laced texts, it had been costing me more than I could afford. It was like trying to breathe with a plastic bag over my head. And I was finally ripping it off. Once my phone was clean, I turned it off and dropped it into the bottom drawer of my desk. I didn't need it. Not for what came next. Because that same morning, I did something I had been too afraid to do for over a year. I emailed the landlord. I told him I'd be moving out at the end of the month. No, I didn't have a new place lined up yet. I had no backup plan. But I knew one thing: I couldn't stay in that apartment any longer. That apartment was survival. That apartment was struggle. That apartment held the echoes of every sacrifice I made for people who never deserved it. It was time to let it go. Just like I was letting them go. The rest of the day passed in a blur of motion, clearing out old notebooks, throwing away receipts, making a list of everything I needed to sell. I didn't cry. I didn't falter. I just moved, like someone in a trance. But this time, the trance was mine. Not theirs. I stopped answering calls. I didn't check social media. I left my inbox unread. And I told no one, not even the few friends I had left, what I was doing. Because I needed to do this alone. Not as someone's sister. Not as someone's daughter. But as me. By the end of the night, I sat in the center of my tiny living room surrounded by half-filled boxes and trash bags, listening to the quiet hum of the fridge and the soft tap of rain on the windows. And for the first time, I felt clean. Empty, yes. Bruised, absolutely. But clean. The pain was still there. But it was no longer pulling me backward. It was pushing me forward. And that night, as I laid down on the mattress that had carried me through years of poverty and heartbreak, I made a promise to myself. I will never again beg to be loved. I will never again fight to be chosen. I quit the family. They fired me first. Chapter 16, Rebuilding. The hardest part about cutting ties isn't the silence. It's the space it leaves behind. It's the way your phone stops lighting up. The way holidays stretch out like long, empty roads. The way familiar sounds, your mother's ringtone, the creak of the front door at your childhood home, linger in your brain like phantom limbs. But eventually, silence becomes peace. And that peace becomes power. After I blocked them and gave my 30-day notice, something in me cracked open. Not in a broken way, but in a beginning way. Like the shell around my life had finally shattered, and for the first time, I could see the shape of something new forming underneath all the debris. I didn't have a plan. Not a perfect one. But I had something better, freedom. I found a room to rent in a shared house across town, a converted attic, barely big enough to stretch in, with slanted ceilings and a single window that leaked light like honey every morning. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And for the first time, it didn't carry the weight of someone else's choices. No ghosts lived in that attic. No lies hung in the corners. I bought a new mattress, a second-hand desk, and a tiny coffee maker I couldn't really afford but bought anyway. I pinned my class schedule to the wall with tape and scribbled quotes on post-it notes. Forward is forward, survival is not the same as living, you are allowed to start over. And I did. I worked harder than I ever had, still juggling jobs, still scraping through, but now it felt like something for me. Not for them. Not to prove anything. Just to become who I was meant to be before they carved me into their idea of strong. I finished school. Not at the top of my class, but proudly, with no help, no shortcuts, and no family cheering in the crowd. When my name was called at graduation, I stood alone. But I didn't feel small. I felt unclaimed. And for once, that was beautiful. I got a job at a small design agency right after college. Entry level. Low pay. But it was something that sparked. I remember walking into that office, clutching my battered portfolio, and thinking, this is what building looks like. No castle. No fairy tale. But brick by brick, it was mine. I said yes to opportunities I would have once avoided. I traveled. First a short trip, just a bus ride to a neighboring city, a weekend alone in a cheap hostel. Then later, a flight to New York. Then Europe. I walked cobbled streets, sat under foreign skies, and realized how small my family's approval really was when compared to the size of the world. There were setbacks, of course. Nights when the past clawed at my window. Days when I nearly called them, fingers hovering over the unblock button, heart thudding with longing I couldn't justify. But I didn't. Because I had finally learned the difference between missing someone and needing them. And I didn't need them. Not to pay my bills. Not to clap for me. Not to decide if my life was worthy of celebration. I stopped stalking their lives online. I stopped caring about updates. The wedding happened, of course it did. I saw filtered photos through mutual friends' timelines, glossy and staged. But by then, it didn't matter. The money was gone. The betrayal was written. I had rebuilt. Piece by piece. Quietly. Without applause. And one day, standing in my little attic room, sunlight pouring over a sketch I'd drawn on the wall, I realized I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. Not in the way they had planned. Not in the way they had funded. But in the way I had earned. No tiaras. No castles. Just grit. And grace. And the kind of strength that no one could steal from me ever again. Chapter 17, The Message. 2 years passed. 2 years since I last heard my mother's voice. 2 years since I looked Alyssa in the eyes. 2 years since I walked away from the wreckage and began rebuilding what they had shattered. In that time, my world changed in quiet, steady ways. My attic room eventually gave way to a real apartment. Still small, still modest, but it had a balcony and enough light to keep a plant alive. I'd adopted a cat from the shelter. Her name was Clementine, and she had a limp and a bad attitude. She was perfect. I still worked hard. But it didn't feel like drowning anymore. It felt like momentum, like motion with direction. I had carved out a place in the world that was mine, and I guarded it fiercely. I didn't attend family holidays. I didn't respond to texts. I didn't feel guilty for choosing peace. They faded like ghosts. And I never expected to hear from them again. So when my phone buzzed one grey Tuesday afternoon, I didn't think much of it. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing design notes for a new campaign, sipping cold coffee I'd forgotten to reheat. A single notification lit up my screen. Alyssa. Can we talk? I need help. It's urgent. I stared at it, blinking once. Twice. It didn't seem real at first. Like some digital hallucination, words typed by a hand from a past I'd buried. I hadn't unblocked her. But sometime in those 2 years, she must have found another way. New number, maybe. Or maybe I'd never actually blocked that one. It didn't matter. There it was. My sister's name on my screen, after 2 years of silence. After 2 years of pretending I never existed. I didn't open the message right away. I just sat there, staring at it, heart thudding in a rhythm I hadn't felt in a long time. Not love. Not anger. Recognition. The kind that creeps in when a door you thought was locked forever suddenly swings open, and you're not sure whether to walk through it or slam it shut again. The message was simple. But it carried weight. Can we talk? Not how are you? Not I'm sorry. Just a request, floating in the digital void, as if the past 2 years had never happened. I need help. It's urgent. I read those words over and over again. And despite myself, a question formed in my mind. What happened? Not because I wanted to know. Not because I cared. But because, after everything, I couldn't imagine what kind of storm could finally shake the perfectly curated snow globe that was Alice's life. Her wedding had been a spectacle. I'd seen it. Photos had leaked their way into my feed like mold through drywall. Her dress had a name, Valentina. The flowers had come from some boutique florist who only took 5 clients per season. Her smile had been flawless, her captions glowing. #blessed. #happily ever after. #dream come true. She had won, hadn't she? She got the castle, the ring, the money. She got them. So what could she possibly need now? I didn't respond. Not right away. Instead, I locked my phone and turned it face down on my desk. I picked up my cold coffee. I went back to work. But even as I moved on with my day, that message lingered at the edge of my mind like a low fog. 2 years of silence. And now, just when I had finally built a life she couldn't touch, she wanted to talk. Why? And more importantly, what did she think I still had left to give? Chapter 18, The Divorce. I didn't respond to Alice's message that day. Or the next. But on the third day, curiosity, bitter and reluctant, got the better of me. I told myself it wasn't about her. It was about closure. About understanding the full scope of the story I'd been written out of. And maybe, deep down, I wanted confirmation that the world had finally stopped rewarding the person who had taken so much from me. So I typed 2 words. What happened? A few seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared. Then they vanished. Then they reappeared. Then vanished again. Whatever she was trying to say, it wasn't easy to put into words. Eventually, a new message appeared. Alex left me. I stared at it. Flat. Simple. Unbelievable. He's gone. He took everything. Another message popped up before I could even respond. It's bad. Really bad. I don't know what to do. It was like a faucet had turned on. The texts started pouring in, one after the other. A waterfall of panic, grief, and fragmented confessions. He emptied our accounts. He took the car. He cancelled the lease on our new place. I'm literally couch surfing. He was cheating on me. For months. With a friend. She's pregnant. I sat there, reading every word, feeling absolutely nothing. Nothing except a dull, distant sense of inevitability. Like watching a glass fall in slow motion, you don't flinch when it shatters, because it was already broken before it hit the floor. Apparently, Prince Charming had turned out to be a fraud. The man Alice had married, the one they spent a small fortune celebrating, the one my parents referred to as a provider, a gentleman, a real catch, had taken one look at her glittering world and drained it dry. He hadn't just cheated. He had stolen. From what I gathered through her rambling texts, the story went something like this: after the wedding, things started to shift. At first it was small. He got controlling about money. He wanted her to quit her job to focus on the home. He restructured their accounts to be more efficient. All of it dressed in language that sounded like love. And she, of course, went along with it. Because why wouldn't she? She had been taught that men fix things. That love is expensive, and she was worth the expense. That someone else would always catch her if she fell. Until she fell. And no one caught her. Because by the time she realized what was happening, the money was gone. So was the lease to their apartment. So was his phone number, apparently. He had moved in with the other woman before Alyssa could even pack her things. She came home one day and found his closet empty, his keys on the table, and a note that said simply, "I need to be with someone who lets me breathe." He had taken not only the money, but the fantasy. The castle had crumbled. The prince had vanished. And for the first time in her life, Alyssa had no idea what to do. "I can't go to Mom and Dad," she wrote. "They're furious. And broke. They said the wedding nearly drained everything. They blame me. I couldn't help it." My lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. Of course they do. They had thrown all their chips onto the Alyssa bet. And now they were realizing the jackpot was rigged. "I just need help. Just until I figure things out. Please." That word, please, sat differently coming from her. She had never said it growing up. Not when she wanted the last slice of cake. Not when she asked for a new phone. Not when my parents drained my college fund for her wedding. Alyssa didn't say please. Alyssa expected. But now, she was the one begging. And I was the one who had something she wanted. The reversal was poetic. But it didn't bring joy. Because underneath the surface of her words, I could feel the same entitled energy pulsing through her texts. This wasn't an apology. It wasn't accountability. It wasn't even an attempt at reconciliation. It was panic. And beneath that panic, assumption. She still believed I would help. That I should help. Because in our family, that had always been my role. Fixer. Rescuer. Provider. The one who suffered quietly while others thrived. But that person didn't exist anymore. That person had burned with the college fund. That person had vanished the night she blocked them all. That person had rebuilt herself from scratch, without a single hand reaching back to pull her up. So now, with Alyssa stranded in the wreckage of her own golden life, she was looking at me as the emergency exit. And I had never been more certain of one thing in my life. I wasn't going back into the fire just because she finally got burned.
They lied. They cheated. They betrayed the one person who gave them everything. But guess what? The truth always finds a voice, and here, it screams. If you live for chaos, loyalty gone wrong, and revenge served cold. Like this video. Drop a comment. And hit subscribe, because on Family Drama Unleashed, we don't forgive, and we never forget. Tap that bell, because the next betrayal? It's already on its way.